I lived on Cypress Street for 22 years without locking my back gate. That changed when the cameras went up. My name is Frank. I am 58 years old. I retired 3 years ago from the water department after 34 years of fixing mains and reading meters. I bought my house in 2003, back when this part of Phoenix was still half dirt lots. It is a single-story stucco house, beige like everything else here, with a 2-car garage and a driveway that slopes slightly to the street. I live alone. My daughter, Michelle, lives in Tempe with her husband. She visits on Sundays. I have a routine. I like my routine. It is not exciting, but I earned it. For 2 decades, my neighbor to the east was a man named Harold Henderson. Harold was 80 when he died last spring. He had a bad hip and a dog that barked at lizards. We shared a property line marked by a row of old oleander bushes. We never had a fence between us, just the bushes. When my sprinkler valve broke in 2015, Harold let me access his side to fix the joint. When his AC unit rattled loose, I helped him bolt it down. That is how it worked. We did not eat dinner together. We did not know each other's birthdays, but we respected the line. We respected that the space between our houses was for living, not for watching. Harold's kids sold the house to a company that flipped it. They painted the walls gray and put in quartz countertops. They sold it within a week to David Chen. David moved in on a Tuesday in March. I remember because the moving truck blocked my driveway when I came back from Home Depot with bags of gravel. I waited. I did not honk. After 20 minutes, I walked over. David was standing in the driveway, directing 2 men in matching shirts. He was younger than me, maybe 38 or 40. He wore sunglasses that reflected the sky and a polo shirt with a small logo on the chest. He looked like he worked in an office where they discussed growth metrics. I stood at the foot of the driveway. "Hey," I said, "you're blocking me in." He turned. He smiled. It was a fast smile, the kind that does not reach the eyes. "Sorry about that," he said. "We're almost done. You're Frank, right? The previous owner mentioned you, said you've been here forever." 22 years, I said. "Great," he said. "I'm David. I'm really going to upgrade this place. Security was a concern with the previous owner. Different generation, you know. I'm installing some modern systems. Good for the whole block, honestly. Deterrence value." I nodded. I did not know what he meant yet. "Just need to get to my garage," I said. 5 minutes, he promised. They were done in 7 hours. I pulled in. I did not think about the conversation again for 3 weeks. David kept to himself at first. He drove a white Tesla that made no noise when it pulled in at night. He worked from home. I saw him through his front window sometimes, sitting at a desk with 2 monitors. He put up a smart doorbell, then floodlights on motion sensors. Then in April, the cameras appeared. There were 3 of them, white bullet-style cameras mounted high under the eaves of his roof. They were small but noticeable. The first one pointed at his own front door. The second one pointed at the shared driveway. The third one pointed directly at my garage. I noticed the 3rd camera on a Thursday morning. I was taking out the trash. It was not yet 6, and the sky was that pale orange color it gets before the heat hits. I dragged the bin to the curb. When I turned back, I saw the red glow of an infrared LED blinking in the shadows under David's roof. It was aimed at my driveway, at my garage door, at the window of my living room. I stopped walking. I looked at it. The lens adjusted. I heard a small whirring sound. It was zooming or focusing. It was tracking me. I went inside. I made coffee. I watched the camera from my kitchen window. It did not move again, but the red light stayed on. It was recording. That evening, I walked over. David was washing his car in the driveway. The Tesla sat in the garage, charging. He had a bucket and a sponge, and he was working on the rims. "David?" I said. He looked up. "Hey, Frank, how's it going?" "I saw the cameras," I said. I pointed at the one aimed at my garage. "That one there. It's looking at my house." He stood up. He wiped his hands on a microfiber towel. Oh, those, yeah. I installed them last weekend. Ring system, top of the line. I can see that, I said. But that one is pointed at my property. It can see my garage. It can see my driveway. It can probably see into my window if the blinds are open. David smiled again, the same fast smile. It's a wide-angle lens, Frank. It's covering my perimeter. My insurance requires exterior surveillance. You know how it is. It moves, I said. I saw it move this morning. It followed me to the trash can. He laughed. It was a short sound. Motion tracking. Standard feature. It's not personal. It's just algorithms detecting movement. It's for everyone's safety. If someone breaks into your garage, I'll have footage. I don't want you to have footage of my garage, I said. I want you to point it somewhere else. Point it at your own house. His smile tightened. He folded the towel. Frank, I checked the angles. It's on my eaves. It's my property. I'm not breaking any laws. And honestly, in a community like this, we need to be vigilant. I've noticed some things since I moved in. The noise levels. The way people park. I'm just documenting. For the HOA. For property values. I looked at him. The sun was setting behind me, casting long shadows. You're recording me, I said. I'm securing my investment, he said. Don't take it personally. It's just data. I went back to my house. I did not sleep well. I kept looking at the window. The red light was there, blinking in the dark. The next week, I started paying attention. I noticed that when Michelle visited on Sunday, the camera moved. I was showing her how to check the oil in her car. We were standing in my driveway. I heard the whir. I looked up. The camera was pointed at us, not at David's house, at us. Michelle noticed too. Is that guy filming us? She asked. I think so, I said. That's creepy, Dad, she said. I know, I said. I started keeping a log. I bought a cheap notebook at the drugstore. Monday, 6:15 a.m. Camera tracks me to the truck. Monday, 7:30 p.m. Camera moves when I take out the recycling. Tuesday, 5 p.m. Camera follows the UPS guy who delivers to my porch. The camera could see my porch. It could see my front door. It could see the code pad for my garage. I called the HOA. The president is a woman named Linda Kowalski. She lives 3 blocks over. She's reasonable, Linda, I said. My new neighbor has cameras pointed at my house. They're recording my driveway and my windows. Is it on his property? She asked. Yes, I said, but it's aimed at mine. There is a rule, she said. No surveillance of neighboring private property without written consent. But I have to check the exact wording. Have you asked him to move them? I asked, I said. He said it's his property and he can do what he wants. I'll send a letter, she said. But Frank, if it's not explicitly pointing into your windows, it's a gray area. These camera resolutions are high. A wide angle can cover a lot. I hung up. I went outside. I stood in my driveway and I waved at the camera. It whirred. It zoomed in. I could see the lens adjust. It was studying me. I realized something then. David was not just security conscious. He was documenting. He was building a case. I remembered what he said about noise levels and how people park. He wanted to change things. He wanted to turn this street into whatever idea he had in his head of a perfect, controlled, surveilled community. And he was using me as the example of the non-compliant resident. The old guy with the old truck and the drip irrigation and the Sunday visits. I was his project. I decided to find out exactly what he could see. I waited until the middle of the day, when the sun was high and he was at work or in his office. I got my ladder. I climbed up to my own roof on the side facing his house. I took my phone. I held it up to approximate the height of his camera. I took photos of the sight lines. From that camera's position, it could see my entire driveway. It could see the license plates on my truck. It could see my garage door opener frequency if it had that kind of resolution, which I suspected it did. It could see my side yard where I kept my utility trailer. It could see the gate to my backyard, which I had never locked. because why would I? But worse, it could see into my living room window. If I opened the blinds in the morning to let in the light, the camera saw my couch. It saw my TV. It saw me walking around in my boxer shorts getting the paper. I climbed down. I felt a heat in my chest that was not from the sun. It was a slow, steady burn. I had lived here for 2 decades. I had fixed the sidewalk when the city wouldn't. I had kept my yard clean. I had helped Harold. And now this man, who had been here for 3 months, was sitting in his office watching me live my life, recording it, storing it on a cloud server somewhere, maybe showing his friends, maybe building a compilation of HOA violations. The trash can left out too long. The truck parked an inch over the line. The time I watered on the wrong day. I looked at the camera. The red light blinked. I went inside. I closed the blinds. I sat in the dark for a while. Then I started planning. First, I researched. I went to the library. I used their computer so David could not see my search history, though I suspected he was not that sophisticated. I looked up Arizona revised statutes. I looked up the HOA bylaws, which I had in a filing cabinet. I looked up electronics. Arizona is a one-party consent state for audio recording. That means if you are part of a conversation, you can record it. But if you're not part of the conversation and you record it electronically, that is wiretapping. It is a felony. And those ring cameras, those bullet cameras, they record audio, they have microphones. They pick up conversations from 20 feet away. I also learned about light, specifically infrared light and lasers. I made a list. I went to the bank and withdrew cash. Then I drove to 3 different stores, none of them near my house. At the first store, a hardware place on the west side, I bought a 6-foot wooden stepladder. I paid cash. At the second store, an electronics surplus shop, I bought 3 high-powered infrared LED illuminators. They are used for security cameras, ironically, to light up dark areas. But if you point them directly at a camera lens, they blind it. The sensor overloads. The image turns to white. They cost $40 each. I also bought a high-powered laser pointer, the kind used for astronomy, green light, 5 milliwatts, legal to own. Dangerous to sensors. At the third store, I bought a large mirror, 4 feet by 4 feet. Acrylic, not glass, lightweight. I bought mounting brackets. I started keeping a journal. Not just times, but methods. I needed to be careful. I am not a criminal. I am a man who wants his privacy back. I waited 2 weeks. I wanted the HOA letter to arrive first. I wanted David to think I was playing by the rules. Linda sent the letter. It cited Section 14.3 of the Covenants. No owner shall maintain surveillance equipment capable of recording images or sound on or from neighboring lots without express written permission. David called me. I let it go to voicemail. Hey Frank, it's David. Got this letter from the HOA. Seems you're escalating things. Just so you know, I consulted with my attorney. The cameras are legal. They're on my property. The HOA can't force me to remove them. I suggest you focus on your own property maintenance. I've noticed your drip lines are leaking onto the sidewalk. That's a safety hazard. I'm documenting it. Have a good one. I listened to it twice. He mentioned an attorney. He mentioned my drip lines. He was trying to rattle me. I checked my drip lines. They were fine. He was lying, or he was going to manufacture evidence. That night, I started phase 1. At 2 in the morning, I went into my garage. I turned off all the lights. I opened the garage door 6 inches, just enough to slide out the IR illuminators. I had built a stand for them using PVC pipe. I set them up on my driveway, aimed directly at David's 3 cameras. I turned them on. They looked like small black boxes. They emitted no visible light. But to the cameras, it would look like the sun had risen in my driveway. A blinding, white-hot bloom of light. I left them on for 6 hours. I ran them off a battery pack. I did not sleep. I sat in my garage and I waited. At 6 a.m., I heard David's garage door open. I turned off the illuminators. I pulled them back inside. I closed the door. I watched from my window. David walked out with his phone. He was looking at the camera feeds. He frowned. He walked down the driveway. He looked at the camera aimed at my house. He reached up and adjusted it. He reset it. He went inside. That night, I did it again. Same time, same duration. The next morning, he was angrier. He checked the cameras at 5:30. He saw the whiteout again. He looked over at my house. I was drinking coffee in my kitchen. Lights off. He could not see me. He posted on the neighborhood app, "To whoever is shining lights at my security cameras, this is vandalism. I have you on video." But he didn't. The video would be white, nothing, and he couldn't prove where the light came from. IR is invisible. It could have been a reflection, a malfunction. I did this for 5 nights. On the 6th night, David installed shields around the cameras, little hoods to block glare. They helped, but not enough. I added the laser. The laser was riskier, it was visible. But at 2 a.m., in the dark from my garage, through a crack in the door, I aimed the green beam at the lens of the camera pointed at my garage. I held it there for 30 seconds. I could see the dot on his house, but from his bedroom, it would just look like a green speck on the wall. The camera sensor, though, would be burning out. Pixels dying, permanent damage. I hit all 3 cameras over 3 nights. Not enough to destroy them completely. Just enough to degrade the image, to make them blurry, to introduce artifacts, to make the footage useless. David called the police. I saw the squad car pull up on Saturday morning. 2 officers. I went outside to get my paper. I waved. The younger officer waved back. David was talking fast, pointing at the cameras. The officer looked bored. I walked over. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Sir, do you live here?" the officer asked. "Next door," I said. 22 years. These cameras have been bothering me, though. Pointed right at my bedroom window. I filed a complaint with the HOA. David's face got tight. "He's the one vandalizing them," he said. "He's using some kind of light device." The officer looked at me. "Sir, have you interfered with Mr. Chen's property?" "I haven't touched his property," I said. This was true. I never crossed the line. Everything I did was from my own driveway or garage. I did install some new outdoor lighting, though, for my own security. After I noticed his cameras were watching me, felt like I needed to brighten up my own space, you know? The officer looked at David. "Is the camera recording audio?" he asked. David paused. "It has that capability." "Are you recording conversations on his property?" the officer asked. It's not active," David said. "I mean, it detects sound for alerts, but I'm not listening." "That's a gray area," the officer said. "Arizona law is pretty clear about recording private conversations without consent. If he's in his own driveway talking on his phone, and you're recording that, that's a problem." "I'm not doing that," David said. "I'd checked the settings," the officer said. He looked at the camera, he looked at the angle, he looked at my house. "Sir," he said to David, "you might want to angle these differently. If they're covering his private areas, you're asking for a civil suit. And if someone is shining lights from their own property, that's not necessarily vandalism. It's their light." David looked at me. I looked back. I did not smile. I just looked. The police left. David went inside. He adjusted the cameras that afternoon. He pointed them more toward his own house. But I could see he was still trying to get an angle on me. He couldn't help himself. That was when I initiated phase 2. I called a surveyor. I paid $800 for a proper survey of the property line. He came out with stakes and orange flags and a transit. He found the original pins from 1998. The line was 6 inches closer to David's house than I thought. The oleander bushes were technically half on my property. The surveyor marked it clearly. He put in a steel pin with a plastic cap. He gave me a map. I made copies. Then I called a contractor. I got 3 quotes for a fence, 6 feet tall redwood solid board, no gaps. I picked the middle quote. $3,000. They started work the next week. David came out when the posts went in. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Building a fence," I said. I was holding a post level on my property, right on the line. The surveyor confirmed it. "You can't just build a wall," he said. "I'll lose my view." "You'll lose your sight line into my garage," I said. "That's the point." "It'll block the sun to my garden," he said. "You should have thought of that before you aimed cameras at my bedroom," I said. He looked at the survey stakes. "Those are in the wrong place," he said. "I have a certified survey," I said. "You want to contest it?" "Hire your own. But the fence goes up tomorrow." He stood there for a long time. He watched the workers. He took photos with his phone. But there was nothing he could do. It was my land. It was a permitted structure. The HOA allows privacy fences up to 6 feet. The fence went up in 2 days. Solid redwood, stained dark. It covered the entire shared boundary from the front setback to the back alley. When they finished, I walked out to my driveway. I looked at David's house. I could not see his cameras anymore. They were blocked by the wood. They were pointed at the fence, recording nothing but planks of redwood baking in the sun. But I was not done. Phase 3 was the audio trap. I invited my brother Ray to visit. He lives in Scottsdale. I told him the plan. He agreed to help. We stood in my driveway, right where the old camera had been aimed, though now it was blind behind the fence. But I knew David had moved one camera to his roof to try to see over. It could not see much, but the microphone could still hear. We spoke loudly. We discussed a fake legal case. I pretended to be injured at work. I said I was getting a settlement of $200,000. Ray asked if I had told my lawyer about the other thing. I said no, that had to stay secret. We mentioned specific dates. We talked about medical records. We made it sound like a conspiracy to commit fraud. We knew David was listening. Or rather, the camera was listening and recording. 3 days later, I filed a police report. I reported that my neighbor was recording private communications in my backyard and driveway without consent, and that I had evidence of him capturing sensitive legal and medical information. I provided the date and time of the conversation with Ray. I provided a transcript. The police served a warrant. They seized the camera's local storage. They found the audio file. It was clear as a bell. My voice and Ray's, discussing private legal matters, recorded without our knowledge or consent, from a device on David's property, capturing sound from my property. David was cited for violating Arizona's wiretapping statute. It was a misdemeanor, but it carried a fine and potential jail time. More importantly, it established a pattern. He was officially a person who illegally surveilled his neighbors. He tried to fight it. He hired a lawyer. He claimed he did not know the audio was recording. He claimed it was accidental. But the settings showed he had enabled audio detection alerts 6 weeks prior. He had knowingly turned on the microphone. He had knowingly captured our conversation. The HOA moved fast after that. They fined him $500 per day for every day the cameras remained in violation of the covenant. He had to take them all down. Every single one. The wiretapping charge made it impossible for him to claim they were for legitimate security. He sold the house in November. He took a loss. The market was slowing anyway, and the disclosure form required him to note the legal disputes with neighbors and the HOA violations. He moved to a condo downtown, I heard, someplace with security cameras run by the building, where he didn't have to manage it himself. I still have the fence. I stained it again last spring. It looks good, solid, private. I bought a lock for my back gate, not a big one, just a simple padlock. I click it shut every night. Not because I'm afraid of David anymore, he is gone. I lock it because I learned something. Boundaries are not lines on a map. Boundaries are what you defend. For 22 years, I thought living quietly and minding my own business was enough. I thought if I was reasonable, others would be reasonable back. But some people do not see lines. They see opportunities. They see data to collect. They see your life as content for their security. You cannot trust everyone to know where their property ends. Sometimes you have to build the fence. Sometimes you have to blind the camera. Sometimes you have to sit in your garage at 2 in the morning with an infrared light, waiting for the right moment to take back your privacy. The sun is setting now. It is Tuesday. I am sitting on my porch with a beer. The fence casts a long shadow across my driveway. My truck is parked exactly where I like it. The trash cans are out. The oleander bushes are blooming. It is quiet, no red lights blinking, no whirring motors, just the sound of the desert evening, the way it was supposed to be.